Yes, the draft is over, but no, the Chiefs aren't done team building. It goes on, and it's a complex picture that we need a little help to see from. Matt's going to help us out with that today as we sort through the first weekend upcoming of the new Kansas City Chiefs here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. He is Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, our illustrious guest every Wednesday here on the show. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for making our first visit today, folks. Check out the draft show. We're still doing draft work. All the grades, all the picks, you can get that all over there. We do appreciate you, and we are brought to you by BetOnline today. Mr. Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest, you have had an interesting week, have you not?
I think we've all had an interesting week. This was one of the more active and interesting Chiefs drafts that we've had in a while, wasn't it?
Can you believe at the end of the day, they actually got things done that we've been asking them to get done? And that in particular for me, we'll just start with the draft and we'll go to the UDFA class. We'll talk about the new acquisitions as well. But they drafted a cornerback. We haven't seen them do that with Brett Veach. The fact is that you went back to the well in Washington. Did that surprise you that if they were going to take a corner, it was Trent McDuffie?
And it only surprised me and surprised Brett Veach because I don't know anyone in the world who thought that he would be available at 21. Ryan, one of the few. I mean, this is a guy they had a first-round grade on. Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, and it played out exactly the way that Brett Veach told us, a week before the draft was going to happen. Hey, if one of the players we've got a first-round grade on starts dropping and they get to like 17, 18, 19, that's where we're going to start paying attention. They get up to 21. So not only did the Chiefs draft a corner, they moved up to get a corner with the first-round grade that they had at 21. So we can put away and Brett Veach has only mentioned it like 3 times in the last week and a half about setting aside the narrative that the Chiefs don't spend resources on a cornerback.
Right.
So you can put that to bed. It's done. The Chiefs have finally done it. Doesn't surprise. I mean, I was much less optimistic than you were. I thought that if there was a cornerback that the Chiefs got, Kaiir Elam was probably the guy. Fits really. I mean, both of them are, I think, really fit what the Chiefs want to do. The only advantage that Elam has is that he's their ideal length and size. And the Chiefs acknowledged, hey, Trent McDuffie is not our typical corner. I mean, he is shorter and has a little bit less length, but he does everything else. I mean, everything checked the boxes, the film, the character, coachability, everything. I mean, and the production, I mean, they like what they got there. So doesn't surprise me if it hadn't been Gordon. I think it would have been Elam, and that was why the Chiefs did get up there. You notice the Bills came in right behind them then to get Elam. Yep. It was probably a race between those two teams to see who could get up the first to get the corner, and the Chiefs won the race.
And I bring that up, folks, not to rehash the entire draft because Chris and I have already gone through pick by pick. I'm going to get Matt's general tendencies because this whole scenario for me actually points out a differential from what we've seen from Brett Veach and the front office in years past. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. My point of saying, yes, I had Trent right there at the bottom of the middle tier. So for me, that was at pick 21. And they took him exactly where he should have been taken. They got optimal value. And what you're telling me from this whole thing is that he only needs 12 picks in order to move up to go get a guy. So I'm going to keep that locked away here for future reference, Brett Veach. But I thought that was just, I only bring up Trent McDuffie to be the illustration of the point that I thought they got value all the way through the draft and they didn't get caught where they had a need and they reached again. They didn't do a Breland Speaks. They took guys at the value where they belonged. And they actually ended up getting some really great value. Do you see it the same way or do you see anything that's outside of that parameter?
No, I think you really hit it. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was almost seemed as though we were going to the draft, especially, the first 5 rounds. I mean, once you get to the 7th round, I mean, they still frankly got value in the 7th round.
Mhm.
at places. But then, yeah, there's some others. I mean, you could probably say, okay, well, you see why the Chiefs made that move. But all along, it's like, okay, how are you getting an All-American linebacker in the 3rd round? How are you getting the SEC's best blocker in the 5th round? How are you getting a guy like Joshua Williams, with that speed and everything in round 4? I mean, it was just one after another. It was like, how is this guy available at that spot? And certainly, Brett Veach, I think, absolutely analyzed the draft board very well to see, where they needed to go and where the values were going to be. They didn't reach at any one point. I mean, even my least favorite part pick for them in the draft is Karlaftis. And hey, I'm probably going to be wrong on that. I mean, I'll gladly admit I'm probably going to be wrong. But it's the one I'm least enamored with. But you know what? I'm okay with them taking Karlaftis at 30. It just would have been a problem if they'd moved up to 21 to get him. Then I would have been like, it's. But as
Agreed.
far as value goes, yeah, I mean, he fell to that spot. Not a lot of people thought that he would. Yeah, I mean, I think that was good value there.
And this is, folks, again, this is not to bash George Karlaftis. It's that he is what Spags has been in the past. He is a power end. He does not have a full gamut of possibilities. I for one, I talked to several people around the league who felt he was a 2nd round player, that he should be somewhere in the mid-2nd. So I heard from people around the league that felt that the Chiefs reached. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm just saying I felt that he's not the whole package, but he does have upside. And I think they've emphasized that since in what we've seen, little bits and pieces, that he still is a young player with a lot of experience and upside to go. And he has the ability to learn. I think that's a theme through this draft as well. We're going to get back on the back side of that here in a bit and get Matt's reaction, and then talk about some of the other changes as well. Whether she prefers a statement piece or subtle everyday elegance, gifting for Mother's Day at BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every single mother. Whether it's classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstone pendant necklaces, this Mother's Day, give something mom she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Chiefs listeners get between $50 and $500 off. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use the code Locked On. That is the code Locked On. And every order is insured. It ships free and it arrives in discreet packaging, so you don't give away the surprise. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So, Matt, a little bit of a theme is, yes, not a fully developed prospect in a lot of ways for a number of these guys. You went out of your comfort zone and you went Trent McDuffie as kind of the outlier, much like Marcus Peters was when they selected him. He was still an outlier at the time. But Karlaftis, I think he has upside still, unlike a lot of people in the league who felt he didn't. Chanel also, I think, has a lot of upside still. I love his quote. It's my favorite one from this group, in that, hey, remember all those things that you think I do great now? Like, I was really bad at them 3 years ago. Like, that is improvement. I think overall, this class feels to me like that's what they were shooting for, guys that showed something that they feel they can develop.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly a recurring theme amongst this group. But I think the one consistent theme that goes beyond the athleticism, because honestly, I mean, almost every one of these guys in the league is athletic. I mean, they wouldn't be here if they weren't. I mean, it's just varying degrees and how you measure that and compare it and everything. The one overarching theme to me is just how this group is wired, because they did not take any head cases for the most part. Day 3, we can start talking about some guys who maybe have some interesting ideas and, maybe colorful running backs. But, by and large, almost consistently, and certainly on day 1 and day 2, this was absolutely true. They took stand-up guys. They took players who are going to fit into their locker room. And that was an overarching requirement.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the Chiefs did not, this wasn't a draft like I think maybe 2018, where maybe they went out of their way to draft team captains and players who were like that, when maybe they overlooked more talented players, that didn't check the character boxes. In this case, they're like, no, we want you to check every box. We want you to be good on film. We want you to have the measurements we want. We want you to have the physicality. We want you to be tough. We want all of these things. But at the end, you also have to check off that box that you're going to fit in this locker room and you're going to be a part of the team. You're going to be coachable and all of that. Every single one of these guys clicks that. And, you can see it. I mean, there's a consistency in the way each one of these guys approaches the game, the way that they play. You see a lot of high football IQ in this group. There's a definite theme there, and it was purposeful because the Chiefs are to a degree. I think that Brett Veach is past the point where he's like, hey, we're going to fit anybody into this group. No, you know what? If we're going to win for the next decade with Patrick Mahomes, we need to make sure that we're getting guys that are a part of the Chiefs way. And I think this draft is the beginning of that.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, because I think that lends stability inherently to your program. And the other thing that I think it helps with is if you're a stand-up guy, but you're pissed off too, I think that's a big plus. Maybe my favorite reaction to this draft is Derrick Knard's.
I knew that's where you were going.
Just the phone call. Like, I mean, if I'm his age, I'd be like, hey, lighten up on the owner for God's sake. But other than that, keep your edge. Like, I find it very interesting that how disruptive he was personally about being selected that late. And I love that. But my question for you is, I think what's being underblown here is that the way he's being spoken about within the organization is they're looking for him to play. And I wonder if that is not just an indictment of the recovery aspect of what's possible for Lucas Niang, but his long-term longevity on this roster.
No, I mean, I think it is. I mean, right now, who is the starting right tackle for the Chiefs in week 1? You're crossing off Lucas Niang. If he is not ready to get onto the field, and with that injury, once again, the Chiefs have been very, opaque with that injury. We've been led to believe that it was a torn patella tendon. I mean, and if that's the case, that is a significant injury. And that's one that if you look at the numbers about the players who come back from those injuries, the numbers are not good at all. I mean, I think that 2 years is in the NFL is about the max, as far as, most guys. I mean, maybe the median about how many guys end up staying in the league after that. It's not a good recovery rate at all. And most guys who come back from that are never the same player again. Now, maybe Lucas Niang breaks that, but right now it does not look good. He's not going to be the starter in week 1, which means who is? I mean, Andrew Wiley has been re-signed. I get the sense that is probably more of a fallback option than the first option. The question is going to be, who is the first option? And yeah, the Chiefs could go outside the box. I mean, you get people who will say, hey, maybe give Trey Smith a shot. Maybe he will. I mean, we'll find out here in the next few weeks once the Chiefs get to OTAs and the mandatory minicamp. We'll get an indication about what they're thinking. But no, I mean, the Chiefs clearly, between Pat Sperduto, the area scout on Saturday, Brett Veach on Tuesday, have told us they believe that he's a right tackle. If he fails at right tackle, at baseline, they feel like he can be a starting guard in this league. But hey, he's got a lot of the requirements that they want in a tackle. The question is just going to be if he's got the movement and the agility to pull it off. He's got everything else. He's got the length. He's got the strength. He's got the brutality to be a tackle. I mean, he's a mauler, and maybe will make him a better guard. But I think he's going to get first shot at tackle, and it would not surprise me at all for a Chiefs team that last year didn't hesitate to put rookies in there by the end of the offseason workouts as starters on the offensive line. It wouldn't surprise me if Kennard got a shot in minicamp and the OTAs over the next few weeks.
Yeah, it would not surprise me either, especially as I understand it. We'll see what happens here at rookie minicamp and OTAs. But as I understand, he's dropped some weight on the order of about 20 pounds since the Senior Bowl, where he did have some issues with getting extended, getting beaten up there, especially by Jermaine Johnson, who's obviously a first-round selection. I think that will definitely help him. Balance was one of the issues that I saw on film, and the quick feed aspect. So I think he has upside there as well. Before we get into some of the guys that are additions that we have to, squint a little bit more for, just as you take this class in as a whole, overriding themes aside, who do you like the best? Who do you think has the biggest impact, not just as a rookie, but in their first contract?
I mean, that's multiple. I mean, and you certainly expect, hey, the first round pick should absolutely be able to do that. They should step in and be. I think Trent McDuffie's probably going to be a starter from day one. We'll see, but certainly has that potential. George Karlaftis absolutely expects to be a starter from day one. Obviously, both those guys, I think, have questions about, hey, will they achieve what you expect of them? Not every first round pick does. Maybe those two guys won't. I think that McDuffie, I've got higher hopes for. Karlaftis, like I said, my expectations are a little bit lower, but I'll probably be on the wrong side of that. Skye Moore is an interesting one. I mean, the tough thing for him is going to be that I imagine a lot of people are going to expect him to be Tyreek Hill. He's not Tyreek Hill. There is no Tyreek Hill walking through the door.
Right.
So what do you expect of him? I mean, honestly, if he becomes a 50 catch, 800-yard guy over the next 4 years, that's fantastic. I mean, I would take that and take it to the bank right now and cash it in. I mean, that would be a really good. And I think that it's important to have low expectations because receivers in the first year in Andy Reid, unless you're a first-round draft pick or your name is Deshaun Jackson or Jeremy Maclin, you don't go out and have 900-yard seasons under Andy Reid. So lower your expectations, wait till year 2 for Skye Moore and see what happens. The guy, of course, I love is Brian Cook. We'll see about the speed. He was my draft crush. He was the guy that I was hyped up on because the guy just hits people. He's a big slammer. And he's got the other things that the Chiefs love. He was a cornerback at Howard. So he's got cover skills. He can play in the box. He can do a little bit of everything. Hey, we'll see if he's got the size and the speed to play. But I like the fact that he just blows up everybody when he gets a chance.
It sucks that you and I have the same favorite in this class because now we won't have anything to argue about.
Can't fight over it.
Maybe we'll have some differences when we look at what's happened since the draft, folks. So we're going to get into that right after this. It's that time of the year. You might not be done with your New Year's resolution, but you got to keep fighting for it. Whether you're trying to get fitter or you're just trying to live a cleaner life, Built Bar can help you. These are the bars that you want to get. They're the best tasting protein bars out there. They're incredible. And it doesn't matter if you like the cinnamony churro, the coconut marshmallow, the straight coconut brownie chunk that I love, as well as the toffee almond. They're all there. They're all delicious. And they give you what you need to try to stay fit and support yourself in your goals for this new year. They're low calorie, high protein, and low in everything that you don't need. You can go over there. They're generally about 130 to 150 calories. They have 4 grams of net sugars. They have 4 net carbs. They have 17 on average grams of protein per bar. You can compare them to like a candy bar. It's like 240 calories. And that's what you get the difference in using Built Bars. Mint Brownies, popular flavor right now. They have a bunch of the new puffs that are the marshmallow protein. Our offer, as always, is at built.com. It's the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off of your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So now we get to the fun part. And I was just going to run down the UDFA class because it's only like one of the best 2 or 3 UDFA classes out there. But before that, they decided, hey, we're not done. We're not done yet. We're going to go trade for Lonnie. And he did a good enough job on Travis a couple of years ago that we liked him at the trade deadline last year and nobody found out about it. But we're going to go bring him in now. And then, hey, we're just going to put this strange tag that like 4 people in the league have ever heard of in order to secure Melvin Ingram. I just, these 2 moves alone, it was a busy day yesterday. How do you take all that?
Yeah, the Melvin Ingram move was a really tricky one because you're right. Not a lot of people know about this tag. As long as you tender that for a veteran free agent before the May 2nd deadline, it's the extension to the compensation window. So now if another team does sign Melvin Ingram, the Chiefs get compensation for that. It's not going to completely close the ability that another team will sign him. If a team that is not at does not have the opportunity to gain a compensation pick right now, would have no qualms about signing Melvin Ingram, but it does limit the pool a little bit. It keeps the conversation and keeps the negotiating window kind of open a little bit. And honestly, I'm not sure that was a big of a deal. I think that, the Chiefs have certainly, I think outside the Dolphins, been the team most interested in Ingram and having him come back. He seems to be happy in Kansas City. It was just always going to be, he wasn't going to make his decision until May or June. Probably once he didn't have to sweat in the middle of Kansas City, June. Yeah, anytime if you can avoid practicing outside for 13 days, yeah, you'll wait. You'll wait when you're 33 years old. You'll get it. Yeah. So I still think it's more than likely he's going to end up, but this certainly, keeps it gives Kansas City a little bit of advantage in that. Hey, with Lonnie Johnson, an absolute Brett Veach classic, low risk, high reward move. I mean, it's a conditional 7th. I mean, if he doesn't make the roster, you walk away. It's like a deal never happened. But if he hits and he sticks and he makes the team, hey, you got a player almost basically for free. So that's a good move. The question is going to be just can he make the team? It's going to be tough. I mean, hey, Rashad Fenton and L'Jarius Sneed are your top 2 guys. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And Brett Veach has acknowledged the competition is up for 3, 4, and 5. Well, the Chiefs drafted 3 corners. They've added, Lonnie Johnson. They've already have DeAndre Baker. They've got some other, they've got some other guys in house too, and other free agents that they've signed. There's plenty of competition. I mean, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys for those final 3 spots, and honestly, I mean, not every one of their draft picks is going to make the roster. Some of these guys are going to make the practice squad, and that's okay. I mean, I don't see that even if, if Jalen Watson doesn't crack the squad, I don't see necessarily a team claiming him, at the waiver deadline. So that probably who does end up on your practice squad.
I will make a bold prediction now that he is one of the last guys cut if he is cut, because I have faith in him. He's one of the guys that I had a star on this board. And another guy that I had a star on leads the UDFA class. Oh, wait, no, there's Justyn Ross too. So we'll get to that guy first. Justyn Ross, risk versus reward. You said it a minute ago. This is classic Brett Veach. And he mentioned the KU Med doctors today, in addition to Rick Burkholder and his team. Just having that and knowing that what I was hearing around the league, that there was only 3 or 4 teams that had him on board, period. And to know that the Chiefs were one of them now, it really enlightens the fact that they weren't going to take a risk in the 7th. They could have had him with any of those 7th round picks if they wanted, but that they were at least not counting him all the way out. I think this is maybe the biggest UDFA signing they've had in their regime since Andy came to town, because the possibility is if you rehab him correctly and everything has been repaired correctly, you could have that kid that was there in 2019 that was the best receiver in college football. I mean, that's how big the reward is on this side.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and you hit it. I mean, you do have to go back 3 years to when he was at the top of his game. Looking back at, some of his film from last year, you certainly saw, I mean, the athleticism is still there. I mean, he's still got it. He's got the size, the knowledge is still there. I mean, nothing got away from him. I mean, I was seeing him just absolutely blow some guys, wide open. But I also saw a guy that looked like he was probably playing a little timid at times. And that's absolutely common too. I mean, it's just going to take some time to get over that. Maybe he's already there. We'll see. But, it's going to, and honestly, I mean, once again, I mean, the Chiefs have not been, shy about taking some of these guys and stashing them on the non-football injury list and letting them redshirt for a year. I mean, Malik Herring is one of those guys that we're going to see who he's got this year. And I'm intrigued to watch him and see if he's somebody that can contribute. And Tim Ward was one of those guys, that they flipped over to the Jets. I mean, Chiefs have done this before. This is a bigger name, bigger talent. And honestly, the fact that the Chiefs did take a chance on him does say something, because even Brett Veach acknowledged something that's kind of been observed by everybody. The Chiefs medical staff is pretty conservative when it comes to these kind of decisions. I mean, they've passed on players before that have gone to other teams. Miles Jack is probably a pretty good example of a player that, the Chiefs might have had some interest in, but, like a lot of teams around the league, passed on him because of injury concerns. And that didn't prove to be a concern, but the Chiefs were pretty conservative on that one. So the fact that back and the neck is not an issue, for probably some other teams, the ankle was maybe a little bit of an issue too. So maybe it's 2 strikes and you're out. But once again, low risk, high reward. If it doesn't work out, no skin off anybody's nose. But if he turns into something, 3 years ago, this guy looked like a future All-Pro.
Yeah, he was at the top of his game when the Chiefs were at the top of theirs, winning that Super Bowl. So that's where it comes back to, folks. It's in squinting distance, I like to say. So that said, certainly the last addition to the UDFA class, but certainly the biggest name. The guy that leads it is Denny Crum, the quarterback from Kent State. And I know everyone's going to say, why are you talking about a quarterback? because this guy got on my board strictly off of his performance against Wyoming when I was scouting Chad Muma for just that game, because he has a little bit of everything. You can see the arm strength. You can see his athleticism when he has to take it on the run, and he will not quit. That was a 49-point performance that they had to come back 4 times. And he led that team over and over with maybe not the greatest weapons either. So that literally got him on my board just because of that. But obviously has some tools that he has to develop. 33rd team from Mike Tannenbaum has him as the number 1 UDFA available. The Chiefs got him. They got Mike Rose, the linebacker from Iowa State, a coverage-specific linebacker, really the puzzle piece that completes Leo Chenal, because he plays backwards and he doesn't come downhill worth a darn. That's okay. Jerry and Ely is in there. Devin Darrington is a running back from Virginia that I like. And then Kendrick Price, the lone wide receiver. Usually this is a run on wide receivers. Does anything stand out to you about the makeup of this particular UDFA class, and how much do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you're right. I mean, the Chiefs were able to, I think, to throw around their weight a little bit when it comes to, them being the Chiefs and a chance for, guys to come play for a Super Bowl contender. I thought it was really interesting that, Brett Veach to us on Tuesday mentioned the fact that, they, especially the fact that they took 3 defensive backs early, was going to make it really, really difficult for them to sign some defensive backs as rookie free agents, because guys were like, no, we're going to go someplace where there's some guys you haven't drafted, which is why they drafted 2 more defensive backs in the 7th round, because they knew that even if Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson made it undrafted, they weren't going to be able to sign them.
Right.
Because they were going to go to other clubs because they wanted to go where they had better options and everything. So you can almost take that 7th round class and extend them into the UDFAs. But hey, Denny Crum is a classic example of a quarterback that if he were 2 inches taller, probably gets drafted, and probably gets drafted pretty high. And if he's 6'4", I mean, instead of 6'1", he probably goes in the 1st round. I mean, that's just the way the NFL is. So he's a little undersized, but big arm. And the Chiefs have not been afraid. I mean, they, especially in the last few years with behind Mahomes and the guys that they've been looking for, they've been less worried about prototypical quarterback size and height, and they've been more interested in guys that have Mahomes' abilities, or at least facsimiles thereof, styles. Nobody's got Mahomes' abilities, but, has the big arm, somebody that they feel like that they can, coach into the accuracy, that could come in and, hey, if this guy becomes your number 2 quarterback one day, you don't have to radically change the offense when they go into a ball game. I mean, that's the guys they've been looking for. I mean, Shane Buechele fits into that category. Sure. So, and hey, there's plenty of opportunities, now with the expanded practice squads for, keeping a 4th quarterback around. So a lot of options, but I'm with you. I mean, they were able to nab some of the top players at several different positions. And I think, again, I mean, that goes to a couple of things. It goes to the Brett Veach and the scouting staff who are doing a good job of making sure that they've beaten the bushes and built the relationships and can get those guys. But 2, it's just the advantages that come with being the Chiefs, and guys want to go play for the Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, go flex a little bit. Good for them.
Exactly.
Man. Now we'll see these guys coming this weekend. So when we talk to you next week, we will have seen a little bit of what they have to offer, right?
Yeah, we got the rookie mini camp starting this weekend on Saturday and running through Monday. We'll get to hear from all of the drafted rookies in person for the first time. We'll get to hear from some of the undrafted free agents. So I know Justyn Ross is on that list. Crum will probably certainly be one of those guys as well. Going to be a busy weekend. This is a big class, and we'll see. The Chiefs always have a few other surprises. Remember this time a year ago, guys like Darius Fountain, just a tryout guy at a rookie mini camp, and impressed enough to stick around, and he's still with the team. So you never know what you're going to find on this rookie mini camp weekend.
Oh, I enjoy those finds, I have to say. So I'll be watching, and folks, we'll be back with Matt next week. Make sure you check out Chiefs Digest for everything in between and all the information that you need from Matt. Thanks for the time today, Matt.
As always, Ryan, great talking to you. Take care, everybody.
Folks, have a great one. We will talk to you tomorrow and get back into where they're going before we see the rookies for the weekend. Take care. We'll talk to you then.